Hey guys, welcome back. It's been a long time since we talked or since I made any videos. So it's been, lot of things are going around this time frame 2026 and yeah, everything is about AI these days. Everything. Okay, my camera went out of focus. That's the sign. It's not AI. So yeah, I am real and this video is real and no AI has been used in making this video. So that I can assure you and no videos in future will be made using AI or with AI's assistance. Okay. By AI, I mean generative AI, the large language models. That's the AI I am referring to. Okay, and I am going to be making mistakes, and also that's a sign to know if someone is AI or not. Something too good to be true, definitely an AI. But flaws and some mistakes is what makes a human, right? Yeah, so basically today I'll talk to you about vibe coding. Everyone is doing these days, and that's the people who are, I'll not say people, that's the companies which are making money these days anymore. So developers like us have very low demand, who are real and who do not just vibe code their way into getting promotions or doing or making lot of apps. And by making lot of apps I mean making lot of money. So yeah, so basically let me start by defining what actually is vibe coding, if you are new to this term and you are still the good old school programmer who doesn't know what is vibe coding. So think of it like, instead of what we actually did previously was that we had to learn a programming language. So a language which machine can understand. So let's suppose if you wanted to multiply 10 numbers, you could write a for loop or a while loop. So you had to learn loops, you had to learn variables, that hey, this is a variable, I have assigned some number to this variable, and then later you could reuse that variable. But what happens now is you don't have to go through any of that step. So all you need to learn to vibe code is basically there are few things in software architecture. There is backend, there is front end, and yeah, that are the most knowing. That's the thing which is known by most people. So some people might not even know it, but most of the vibe coders do know that, the technologies which they are using. There is a database, there is a backend, there is a server, there is a website, there is a web app. So they are most of us are familiar with these terms. So now what happens is there are a lot of platforms tools which uses large language models, top tier large language models, to get their job done. So basically if I say, hey, make a calculator for me, so previously what you would have done is you would have learned Python and used Qt or some framework, or you would have learned JavaScript and wrote the program which will in HTML, which will have some buttons and all that. But these days all you need to do is go to any of the platform. Like there are a lot of platforms, people use Lovable, Claude Code, and in VS Code itself you have lot of integrated tools which can help you vibe code, like GitHub Copilot. So previously we just had auto completion and auto suggestion, but now it's a totally different thing. We are not just talking about auto completion and auto suggestion. We are talking about vibe coding. So basically now I can just go and say, hey, create a calculator in JavaScript, and what it will do is it will just use React or whatever framework it knows the best. And if you tell it to do it in Python, it can do that as well. It's up to you to say what you want it to write the. And if you have no knowledge and you are using a platform, then it will definitely use React, Next.js, and all those other things. So what happens now is when You tell it, so it just creates it in 2 minutes or even in just 1 minute, because it has learned that, hey, now it just gives you a pre-built page, or it can just give you a code, and it can give you a preview as well, like while you are, if you are using Claude web, or if you are using Claude code, it will just write the file in your editor and everything will be done. You will not have to do anything and your calculator will be done. So that's how vibe coding is. You don't have to learn any language, you don't have to understand the terms, you don't have to understand anything. All you have to do is understand how to prompt the model. So there are a lot of models these days, and unfortunately most of these models are not open source, which people are using to vibe code. It's mostly Claude or Gemini or I don't know. There are a lot of GitHub Copilot. They have collaborated with. They have shares in OpenAI, so they use OpenAI models, GPT-4 and GPT-5 and all that. Yeah, and they also apparently these LLMs have reasoning. So I'm not going to be sharing screen or showing you any demos in this video, because this is just me talking to you like a human would, instead of doing like a fancy video editing and I don't know, lot of editing. I am not a fan of all those editings. I used to do lot of cool stuff editings when it was cool and nobody was doing all that. A few 4 years ago, yeah, that was fun. Then when there were less people, less creators on YouTube, and every day these days, everyone is just AI creator. So they are not really creators, they are just creators. Actual creator is AI, and what a lot of people have been doing is also using AI to just write their video script and generate these videos. So be aware of that. So yeah, that was vibe coding. So basically, some of the pros I'll mention to you. Why any, even my clients have, been doing vibe coding. Lot of projects they have vibe coded, and they have spent lot of time and money on it, and it works for them. They just kept prompting like, hey, fix that, fix this. So they tested, they prompted, and it kind of works. Yeah, so the pro is that you can build apps 10 times faster now, because you are not building it, the AI is building it. So yeah, saying that you are building it would be a lie to me, lie to yourself, and to the world, honestly. Yeah, and you don't have to hire, so many developers or any developers at all. If you know the basics, like, hey, this is a website, this is where you host it, this is AWS, this is Supabase, and this is Postgres, this is database. Like, I copy paste this, I go to Google Cloud Console, I create API keys. If you can do those things, you don't need to hire developers to do all that. AI will give you a very clear and concise instruction on how to do that. And in some of the cases, around 20 to 30% of the cases, it will just make things up. If you don't know that, hey, there is this button, but when you actually go to find that, there won't be any button like that, because AI doesn't have eyes like us. It cannot see, it cannot feel, it cannot actually go to the console and click the button. I mean, it can right now, but again, we don't do that right now, but we might be doing that with a lot of tools these days coming out. We can do that. We can actually tell AI, hey, go to my Google Cloud Console and create API keys, copy that and take it here. Go to my Google Play Console, go to my Amazon Web Services and launch. So a lot of companies have launched their MCP servers. It's like an API which LLMs can talk to the server instead of just using the API. It's basically exposes that, hey, these are the functions which you can call. So for example, if you are on AWS, and AWS has an MCP, model context protocol server, which they do right now, and you want to launch an EC2 instance, which is like a virtual private server, VPS, let's say, uh, what you can do is you can just tell your model after you have connected it to AWS and its MCP. Now you can just tell it, hey, launch an EC2. What it will do is it will look through all the functions which AWS has exposed, and it will search that, hey, it has a function which lets me uh, launch EC2. So it will just call launch EC2 on its own. You don't have to do anything. You just say, hey, launch EC2 with this parameters, or you don't even say that. It will assume that, hey, you need 8 GB of RAM or 80 GB of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage to run this app. You never know what can happen. So then and also you don't need to hire projects manager anymore, because you are the manager. You are directly talking to the AI instead of delegating your request to a project manager, who will then create stories for you and then delegate and make sure the developers work on it, the QA tests that particular feature. So those things are not happening anymore, my friend. So those were the some of the pros I mentioned, just few pros. But coming to the cons, I have a lot of cons from this. I mean, not personally, nothing personal. I mean, there is a lot of personal things. So yeah. Uh, so basically, the first con would be that the AI, the vibe coder, will always be using the same tech stack. If they don't, then what will happen is the AI is not trained on, something like solid.js, something like, go with the latest SDK. So it is not going and reading the documentation right now or even understanding. It's not that smart. It's not as smart as a human developer with 10 years of experience would be. It is not smart yet, and I'm not sure it is ever going to be that smart that it can understand the problem, figure it out how to solve it, if no one has ever solved it yet, in most of the cases. In some edge cases it might. Okay, but yeah, coming to the problem, like the tech stack stays same in all these vibe coded. You will see this Next.js, Expo, React, a Supabase, Postgres, and these are going to stay the same. But if you wanted something more performant, something like if you want to work with solid.js or Svelte, there is not lot of data, so it will get bit distracted. It will not have the same level of confidence which it had when it was using React, because tons of people, hundreds and thousands of people used React because they wanted jobs for mon developers, right? So yeah. And second thing is the code it will write is not going to be as good as some experienced good developer is writing, because it doesn't know what a good code is. AI doesn't know what's a bad code, what's a good code. For a for the LLM, they are just code. They'll whatever is most repeated, they'll just use that. It's that simple. Okay, so bad code, it was mostly trained on bad code. Right now, these days, it has gotten bit better, but yeah. So lots of GitHub open source code they trained on unethically, unethically, right? Yeah. So yeah, and it was not great code. So if you are using that to vibe code, you can see that, hey, why would someone do this? There was a much simpler way. I could have just used a map or a flat map or a reduce function or a for loop, instead of writing a very complicated function which nobody can understand. All right. And then the second thing is, and the biggest thing here is security. Let's assume that you can live with a slow app, buggy app, but can you expect to be, lot of security compromise on your app? A lot of people are integrating payment gateways. So there could be, since it's not well tested, there is no QA, there is no developer who is testing the code, who has understood every piece of code which is in there, and they have not decided whether they should write that or how they should do that. They have not made any of the decision. They just told, hey, please integrate this payment gateway. It could be Stripe, it could be PayPal, it could be anything. So they just told that and AI did it. Okay, they gave the API keys to the AI or somewhere, they copy pasted and it's there. So are you sure it's working as expected? Is it I don't know, because lot of security risks do come with this AI slop we are creating, vibe coding, I'll say. So yeah, that's the biggest concern. And the second thing is, which I saw in the previous project I was working. So the guy just vibe coded a huge complicated app in Expo. When I said against not to do it, Expo is not the right choice for this complicated app. They just, you know, they kept vibe coding. They just told this, hey, fix this issue. It was taking forever, and if you open something, it takes 2 minutes to load. If the search is buggy, so lot of bugs. So you will definitely see performance issue with AI written apps, vibe coded apps. So if you go to any app which has been vibe coded and you click on it, so I have seen the website made by my clients. When they go to it, they see a loader because they don't know, like, what are the things, how it should have been done, how to fix that, how to improve the speed, because apparently no one cares about performance anymore. So yeah, the request which could have been completed in 200 milliseconds, now it takes 2 seconds to complete. And coming to the second thing, it's not second, it's testing is impossible. Testing. So previously we manually wrote the tests and we manually wrote the code. We could have automated the testing by AI, but still someone had to make sure that, hey, the test I'm writing is sum of two numbers going to be this, is 2 plus 2 going to be 4. People are not expecting that. AI is writing the code, AI is also writing the test cases. So what's the point? If that fails, AI will say, hey, the test I have written, this is how I wrote the code and this is how I am writing the code for the test, and it should be like that. If AI feels it that way, it will be that way, but it will always be failing for the end user, but it will be passing for the AI and for your CI systems. Okay. And talking about collaborations, forget it. Do you think now people collaborate? No, they are just collaborating with the AI. AI is their partner. There are no more collaborations happening. All right. No more collaborations. If you think someone can collaborate with vibe coded project, good luck with that. And yeah, so there are a lot of edge cases, and with AI, again, as I mentioned, lot of library will be used, lot of dependency. You will not have a good optimized app at the end of the day if you care about user experience. Where I do care a lot about user experience, because I am also end user of lot of apps which are built by great people around the world. So yeah, and there are people with disabilities who need better apps. We need to fix that. AI is not fixing any of these problems. Okay. So now coming to the bigger question, should you vibe code and forget programming? Like, since it's all this new shiny thing and everyone is using, all the programmers have stopped learning to code and they just vibe code, right? In my opinion, you should not. If you are really passionate about coding, about your career, and you want to stay in this career, because eventually people will keep coming up with such tools which will make others, laymen's or normal people's job, the barrier to entry of making apps, making SaaS products easier and easier every day. But yeah, if you are not into that, and if you really love programming, if you really love coding, you don't need to be, switching to vibe coding. The brain you have, the experience you'll have, you could still use AI to, get something, understand something. If you are unable to find anyone who can explain it better, then definitely you can ask AI, hey, can you explain this thing, which is very unlikely if someone has not already explained that thing to somewhere. AI has not learned it how to explain it, okay, so it won't be able to answer you. So yeah, stick to, real programming, not vibe coding. Okay, if you want to stay in this industry, and you want good for this world, because AI takes so much water, and everything takes so much water. So do not make, so when you use AI, you are using the water. When the AI was trained, you used lot of water. And now when you are making shitty apps, which is very not so performant, you are wasting more water, you are wasting more bandwidth, because the library it has used is 10 megabytes, and to load your website it takes forever. Okay, now uh, you might be thinking, hey, I don't, do vibe code. Will I stay relevant? How will I compete with the coders, programmers who are using vibe coding, who are using who can do the same job 10x faster than me? They they could, but can they really do 10x faster? Imagine if they hit a bug, okay, which they will for sure. Everyone gets some bugs. And how will they fix it? They'll have to go through the entire code again and again. Their first instinct will be to go to the same AI, and they'll say, hey, can you please fix this bug? I am getting this error. 50-50 chance it might or it might not fix that bug. But if you have coded it and you know where this bug can be, and it will just click in your head, oh yes, I know why is this happening, it might have been this. Okay, so that's where you will shine, in quality, in speed. So eventually you, instead of spending 10x time debugging, you will spend 10x extra time developing the app. So it's that simple analogy. Okay, and yeah, whatever happened to people who were passionate about programming, who had the hobby as a programmer, they wanted to code, they liked making websites, they loved making websites. People like me who still do not use AI to code, who handcraft code, I mean handcraft websites, I can say. Handcraft code doesn't sound great, okay. So yeah, that's there. So if you are a real deal, you'll stick with your real brain, and you will continue to grow, you'll continue to learn. The web is kind of mostly dead internet right now. But yeah, I'll be shifting this channel a bit, and I'll share another update for that, showing you around. Yeah, stay tuned. If you want a real human to talk to you, you can subscribe to this channel. I'll be having some kind of RSS subscription and newsletter as well. I'll put the links down below so that we can all connect to our fellow humans and talk to real people in this AI and bot driven world, who just wants to profit out of some poor engineers and poor artists, everyone in this world. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day, night, evening. Bye bye. Do not vibe code.